最近の赤いもんは。さて、お手並みを拝見させてもらいますよ。
Wait. I'm gonna be honest here. This is probably the worst time to be playing Minagoroshi. No joke. I'm playing Minagoroshi right now. God, I didn't know they were gonna go with this path. This episode 12 was basically a speed run through getting the council's approval and Oreo's approval. It was a speed run with a few differences, but the outcome was the same. Even though Oishi has not even interacted with Keiichi at all, nothing really came out of that. Oishi seemed to be like, alright, you go, Keiichi. Though I have some suspicions that he might not be on Keiichi's side, but from this episode, he seems to be passive. Like, he's just gonna be like, wow, I'm impressed. Like, he's more like the impressed older guy about this instead of the, you know, the passive guy who was on Keiichi's side. Like in Minagoroshi, he was always on Keiichi's side, though he has to be passive about it because he's an outsider and also a police officer, so he had to be passive about this case, but he was always on Keiichi's side with saving Satoko, so I can't tell you if he's still being that passive supporter of Keiichi, or he's just more or less impressed with what Keiichi's doing. And Irie was not with them during their talk outside. He was just in the meeting hall the whole time, but he seemed to still support them. Those were the only real differences, and the outcome was still pretty much the same. Like, maybe the whole scene with them talking to the council was kind of toned down, like there wasn't actual physical fighting this time around. Yeah, there wasn't actual physical fighting this time around. Keiichi's dad wasn't even there. Yeah, Keiichi's dad, probably one of the big factors as to why the older people listened to Keiichi was that Keiichi's father was on Keiichi's side during that whole scene. Some things were different, but the outcome was the same. They got the approval from the village. Also, I have a little bit more to say about this because I'm gonna say this now. If I was a new viewer to Higurashi, I kind of want to know, would they be confused about this episode? Because I'm honestly wondering how would a new fan react to this episode, because at least the dean gave a little bit more context to what was going on with the whole thing about Satoko. In this episode, they kind of just, you know, pushed the information all of a sudden. So really, I feel like GOU, even though they say it's for new and old fans, it's mostly for old fans at this point. Like, I'm just gonna flat out say it. I think GOU is mostly for older fans because a lot of the stuff in this episode, if you didn't have the context of at least the first 4 games of Higurashi or the first anime season, like if you didn't get any of the context with the first season of the anime or the first 4 visual novels, you're gonna be as confused as hell in this episode. So I have no clue how this episode will go for newer fans, but for older fans, it was pretty alright. I probably would have enjoyed this episode a lot more if I wasn't actually reading the visual novel of Minagoroshi right now. I was just kind of bored of this episode because I'm currently playing the game that this episode is taking scenes from. Even though it may seem that they're speedrunning Minagoroshi and everything's going to plan like in Matsuri Bayashi. Like in Matsuri Bayashi, they were handed the victory. Right now, in Tatari Damashi, it kind of seems like they're being handed the victory again. But I cannot wait for the next episode to GOU to slap that plate out of the hand and completely frick them all over. I cannot wait for all of them to get fricked over. I'm sorry, this is horrible, but there is no way this is going to end well. I have zero belief that this is going to be a good ending. We have 1 episode left, and this is a deceiving arc. I mean, the best course of deception would probably be them actually getting the victory this time around. That would be the biggest deception ever in Higurashi for this arc, that they actually get the win instead of, you know, they lose like everyone expected. And to end this video, I have a theory. Now, this is just a sporadic theory that came into my mind Which I just wanted to share this because, well, this is the only sort of video that can really share this theory. But for this Tatari Damashi arc, I have a slight theory as to Rina Mamiya, Teppei Hojo's girlfriend. Now, even though they made no real reference to Rina just yet, maybe they did, I might have missed it. I think they might have did some references to Rina, but anyways, I have a feeling, just a strange feeling, that Teppei had killed Rina this time. And here's my reasoning. In the first scene of Tatari Damashi, a landowner in this apartment complex goes to Teppei's room, yelling about a foul smell. Now, we didn't really get to see too much into Teppei's apartment, but there was a foul smell coming from Teppei's apartment. As if he killed Rina in his apartment, and now he's trying to cover things up, and he ran back to the village after killing his girlfriend to lay low, as his missing girlfriend is, you know, being investigated by the police. Which is why Oishi's acting so strange in this chapter. Oishi may not be even against Keiichi and the gang. He might be trying to find out evidence that Teppei Hojo might be involved with the disappearance of Rina Mamiya, the woman that he might have killed. Now, this is just based off of circumstantial evidence. Like, I have no real proof that Teppei could have killed her, other than the reported smell in his apartment and him returning to Himizawa. He could be running from the Sonozakis, or this could be a different sort of arc where he killed Rina in his apartment and he's covering things up, and in his process of covering things up, he's hiding out in Satoko, in the Hojo residence with Satoko, as everything's being covered up. Now, this is just a random theory that I came up with in my head because, well, I just have a strange feeling that Teppei might be the killer of Rina. I just have this strange suspicion. Like, that's basically my biggest theory about Teppei right now. He murdered Rina.
Okay.